Hello, everyone. This is the April 13th, 2022 official state meeting of the People's Party of North Carolina. Welcome, everyone. Glad to see all of you. Thank you for taking time out to be a part of our get-together and to build a party that the people can actually believe in. So all of us are pretty excited about the possibilities here. So let's dig in here. We got a nice agenda here. Let's see. We do not know much about Connie, so Connie must have came out. Oh, there's Foxworth. Okay. All right. So we just about.
Oh,
my apologies, y'all.
All right. You're up next. So, hopefully get all that straightened out right now. All right. So let's see here. Okay. We got Mark is coming in here. So here he comes. So we'll go ahead and I think, Bob, is this your protege here, buddy? Your man?
Well, I think he's so much smarter than I am. I think I'm his protege. He's our new partner in recruiting members.
Oh, excellent. We need that. Way to go, buddy.
I'll let him tell you about himself. I won't do him justice, I'm sure.
Okay.
But I'm just mighty glad to have him with us. And I want to give a nod to Nissan for working with us this afternoon. Nissan really had a lot of patience. I was the one that needed most of it. And so he and Adon worked out while I worked everything out to get oriented onto our Google contacts and Gmail system that we're currently using, and to send out our invitation, which was not exactly as smoothly as we might have wanted, but we got it out and we did the job, and that's what counts. And again, thanks so much to Nissan for his patience and perseverance. He's amazing.
Here's to you, my man. Cheers. Okay, so Connie, we're going to give you the floor. Just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
All right. So it's 7:08. Is there a specific time y'all want me to pass it by? I'm a professional facilitator, trainer, and speaker, so I can go as long as y'all want, or I can go as short as y'all want.
Okay, and what are you got a specific type of presentation? I was just thinking a general bio of you.
Yes.
And
I can give you as general as I want. How about this? It's 7:08. I can pass it back at 7:10. I give y'all a 2-minute spiel of who I am and what I do.
Good. That's great.
So I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was an organizer in Charlotte, runner-up for prom king, lost to my best friend. Me and him started an organization together called Conscious Connection. He started it in Charlotte at UNCC.
lost connection.
Breaking up.
I'll make it in 2 minutes.
Yeah,
No, he completely blacked out. Connection just dropped.
ANT and Conscious Connection.
Having all kinds of problems here.
Can't hear you.
Oh my God, that's like chipmunk or something. What the hell?
Who is frozen, my friend?
He is frozen.
The frozen shows. That's Presbyterian.
I think if he turns his video off, he'll get better reception. If you can hear me, Connie, or how, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but if you can hear me, if you turn your video off, your audio might come through. You want to try it again?
Hello.
It's not muted.
I
No, it's
told
not
him he
muted.
need to get a.
He just has a very poor
PC to
connection.
get rid of That Mac.
Mhm.
Damn, he
Okay.
was on a good spiel too. And it doesn't nope.
Yeah, he's a real asset to us already.
Mhm.
Probably going to sign back in. Let's just move on. The usual suspects. We got to figure out a way to get more people here.
Okay, let's
You
see.
also, did you all get Connie's email?
Yeah. Right.
No.
We got Connie's email.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
phone
I
number.
didn't check. I
You
didn't
were on it, Stacy.
maybe I just didn't check. If it came recently, I haven't checked in a few hours.
It had a Zoom link in it that didn't work.
Well, I used the same Zoom link and it worked for me. You had to kind of click more than usual.
It worked for me too.
Going to change to
Did
something
you have
else?
to click?
We're going
I-
to change to
I got-
Google Meet next week, so that we're
Next
through with
week.
Zoom. We're through with Zoom.
Hopefully Google Meet works better for you.
Okay,
May I use a little time here while we're waiting for somebody important?
yeah,
Sure, go ahead.
sure, go ahead.
I want to tell you that due to our connections with some good folks up in Asheville, Mark Twain has been engaged to talk about politics then and now at the White Horse Tavern in Black Mountain, North Carolina, which is a venue that is fairly popular and been really popular with the Bernie folks. We're hoping to get a lot of Bernies in there and tell them why we're the one to pledge their allegiance to, since Bernie's not available anymore. Wish he was, but he's not. Anyway, so we're going to be doing that on June the 12th, I believe. And I'm in the market for placing Mr. Twain and perhaps Albert Einstein in other venues to talk about things that are important to people and our survival on this planet. Dr. Herr Professor Dr. Einstein can speak to that better than Mr. Twain or I. But we're looking for places to go for a short presentation, 15, 20 minutes, and at no charge, where we can talk about politics that relate to the people and why we need a people's party. So anyway, I am appealing to you to find us some venues. Maybe we can go out to the Shikori. I don't know how that fits in with their format, but that's one we do have on tap. So anyhow, I'll be glad if you just give me some names. I'll be glad to follow up and explore the possibilities, or I'll get Mark to do it. He's much more distinguished than I am.
Is any of these events going to be streamed or recorded?
What's that?
Are any of these events going to be streamed or recorded?
I don't know. I would be fine with me. I just asked folks and they want to record Mark. He's a little persnickety. He doesn't like doing anything for nothing. So if you just give him a copy of the video, he's okay. Janet's laughing.
They're not
See
talking
Mark
about me,
and
I think they're talking about the character. Of
Yes.
course, I'm a character, but different one.
A different character. Well, as long as, I mean, there's something good about character, you know. We all need a little something.
If it's a good character.
Yes.
I see.
Let's move forward here. Connie, did you want to go ahead and continue where you left off, sir?
Yeah, apologies about that, y'all. Looked like I was having some bad.
At least, anyway.
We might have to take up a collection and get
Connie.
you.
Yeah. So those who don't know me often call me Johnny.
We got the same problem.
And then
Don.
and those who know me really well know I prefer my middle name, which is Adon. So
Don.
if you remember Connie, that's fine too. I don't take it personal at all if folks mispronounce my name. Okay, so I was left off talking about the organization I started called Conscious Connection, interfaith organization. Became the largest organization on A&T's campus, over 100 students, chaptered at Georgia State University, Howard University, Charlotte, University across the East Coast, in the country as a leader to learn about. I'm breaking up.
Don,
How about now?
why don't you sign on with your cell phone? Maybe we'll have a better connection. It's really bad.
Oh wow. Okay, I'm sorry about that, y'all.
Yeah, well, it's probably in the atmosphere, not in your machinery.
Yeah, that's interesting because I present every day on this device. So
Well, maybe
There's
it'll
another
be
victim
better
of
with Google.
NC's technical difficulties.
Okay,
Okay.
well, we will go ahead and move forward here and talk about a couple other little issues that are coming up. Bob, you done talked about your Mark Twain thing. Great, good news. Table at the Shikori Hills Festival. I think Stacy, you and was Maple a part of that, or? Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so are you guys going to commit to doing that, and you need us to support you with the $50 fee for the table?
Well, yes, it turns out that Maple already sent in an application.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we haven't said, I don't think anybody sent any money, although I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I thought if people could contribute, it's a $50 fee. I offer to contribute 10. If other people can contribute, that would be great.
right.
And I've done booths at Shikori many times, and so I have the system down. I have sign up sheets and sign up sheets on Google spreadsheet for people, for volunteers and
Yeah,
things
yes.
like that. And I thought we could use the literature that we used for the Jimmy Dore show and whatever else that you come up with, Scott, or
Right, well, I'm gonna show you real quick what I've got here, and that's just basically, it's, I put this in here, but we could put some more stuff in here, and I'm kind of I'm gonna have to think a little more about it, but, and plus we could put stuff on the other side of the card, I guess it would cost a little more, but do we want to look at this as our permanent card, or just a card we're gonna get through the next few months with, or whatever, but this is what I came up with so far.
Is that regular business card size?
Yeah, it's
It
just
looks a little skinnier and longer than a business card.
well, just fantasize about the fact that it's just the perfect size. Because it is. It's just an optical illusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask this.
There is some room down
I
here.
like excuse the expression, the MPP card for what it was able to get on there, and it's a very good thing to hand out as a general piece that tells a lot, and I think it piques people's interest to find out more. I sent you a copy of that card, Scott, both sides. Did you get it?
Got it. I've got several cards right here. I found them, but I do have.
Oh, okay. Well, then
Now
I
look,
think we cut off the bottom that identified the the more specifically the MPP, and we had them printed at Staples, and I got 1,000 of those for $25, I think.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I would add a QR code to that card.
Okay,
Yeah,
You have a nice space there that will fit.
yeah, QR code, good idea. All right, so, yeah, so I do have something basic there. Do you think, Janet, what?
I think that the wording is great and a QR code would be good. But as a person who's nearly 80 years old, the type might be kind of small. I'm just wondering if the type could be larger so people could.
Make
Yeah,
that
well, all of it actually, it seems to me, could be
a little bit,
larger.
yeah.
Maybe
Okay,
we
Put it up there full size. I mean, the size the card is going to be rather than this blown up version. So we can see what it looks like with that type style.
Well,
Yeah, also,
yeah, just if
one other
it would
thing,
work,
if it's
make it a little bit
We
larger.
got-
proportions,
yeah,
Now,
okay,
the
well, that's
proportions
fine.
don't
I can do that. That's not a problem.
the proportions actually like a business card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It looks longer and narrower to me.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, well, that's not the right size. That's functional. If you can shrink it down in your mind's eye.
Hang on, let me show you something. I've got the actual thing I'm working on right now. So let me show you just what it looks like. All right, let me share this to you and see what you think. All right. Right there. And what's weird about this software is I can't turn it around.
Rotate it.
I can't rotate it. Yeah.
But that's just more like this. That's just a little bit smaller than a business card.
That's at 100%
right.
right there.
That's 100%.
Yeah, that's
That's actually 103%.
yeah, 103%. So yeah, it might be a little bit smaller, but yeah, 101%.
So it won't be as big as a business card then.
No, yeah, 100. Yeah, it's a business card.
That's the size of a business card.
yeah,
Now this here, we can make this window. I can take and make this bigger or larger, and then or make the font larger, and then it will
right,
make the box go bigger, but at the same time, it'll be easier to read.
right. And
Yeah,
I
this
think
appears
People's
to be
Party
big.
should be bigger too.
This appears to be bigger than that card unless it may be
No,
100%.
it's the same size.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
It's just
well,
because he's doing on the display, so it's a little, it looks a little off.
I guess I have a small economy size computer.
well, I did a lot of stuff for Bernie with those small sizes, but so I can sort of imagine it. But I just think that larger type, especially like People's Party and the map of North Carolina, it's just more compelling if it's I think if it's a little larger.
The map
But
is,
then the QR code might need to go in the back.
yeah, okay, okay.
There's a space there in the front, it could fit.
Huh?
There's a space in the front, it could fit between the text and the.
Yeah, but if we make this font larger, it might take up that space, so, and I don't,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can certainly get it on the back. That's not a problem.
It doesn't matter how big the QR code is. Can it be real tiny?
It can be fairly small from what
It
I
could
know.
be pretty small. I mean, it'll fit in that little spot.
Yeah.
Just so you can find it.
You go right.
Yeah, so, but we'll do that. We're closer to selecting a bank for our 527 and our 501c4. We believe we're going to go with the Aspirations Bank, the upper level, and Aaron is working on that now. So that's another step to us being able to file our statement of organization, which will make us official with the state. And then we can start collecting money, and it'll open up some doors for us. And and that's good news. So yeah.
I have another name that a friend of mine gave me. It's called Movement Bank.
What?
And it's a Movement Bank. It's a socially responsible organization too. So just thought I'd throw that out there. I haven't looked into it, but that's.
Well, it's good to see there's more than one of these types of banks showing up in our culture now. That's good.
Yeah.
Because other people shows that other people want change too, which is what we are all about, is making people giving people options, freedoms, rights restored. What is this here? Okay, so I want one more thing here. I'm going to go ahead and share this. Bob, wait a minute. Where did I go right here? Let's see. I'm going to share. No, I'm not going to share that. Okay. Forgive me. I'm going back to this People's Party email. Okay, so this is what was sent out tonight. Right?
Right.
People's Party tonight at 7 p.m. Okay.
Yes.
It's nice that it was sent out, but this is really not going to work, and not on a regular basis. Bring your own.
Well, we're not saying it worked. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it was what we could do at the time with the time we had to get it done once we got through all of the hoops we had to jump through. So it was my decision to send this out as minimal piece out, and it's not meant to be an example. In fact, anybody wants to give us some input about that is certainly welcome, including you, Scott.
Well, now I did send you an email earlier about this, and I asked you to send me a copy of the email that you're going to send to members and that you're going to send to new people. And I see this and I'm like, well, that doesn't look like.
No,
well,
I'm sorry I didn't explain it.
Pieces of information that I want in that email.
Well, why don't you give me the information you want and then I'll put it together in an email.
So I can go ahead and just create the email, and then I thought you would have something already done, but if not, then we can
Well,
do.
I've been sending out something that I used that was less minimal than this, and it was designed to try to get people's attention so that they would come to the meeting.
Right.
So several of those have been sent out. That was what I had in mind. So I don't know what else you might want. Maybe you could look back in your emails and look at those. They were all different, and the ones that were sent to the group, and see what you like and what you want to add. I don't know any others to do. I sent them out.
Yeah, this went out to all of our membership right here.
What?
All of this right here went out to all our membership. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Right? We have. Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, we need to do better at that. So we'll work on that and get an email that have all the proper links in it and all that good stuff, because it should be some kind of a process for us to bring people on board, and we certainly want them to get connected into Gilded.
That link, by the way, came out of the Gilded.
What?
That link that's in that email came directly out of Gilded with the success on the end of it, pound success. So I had every right to believe that was the correct email. It worked for me, but you had to click more buttons than you usually do. I don't know if that was I don't see why it made any difference on our end, but it could have made a difference on Zoom. May have changed something that caused you to have to click more than one time. That was unusual, because usually when you click on these links, they go directly to where you want to go, and you just have to wait for the head man or woman to let you in.
Correct.
What I got was a message saying your meeting has been started. This was at 4 in the afternoon.
We didn't send that message.
Yeah, it
Unless
doesn't,
we,
it
when we
doesn't
were
show,
messing with,
it
maybe
doesn't,
with some,
it doesn't,
so-
it doesn't show coming from you. This shows, this has, this, what's in my inbox, doesn't show coming from you, Bob. It shows coming from Connie.
yeah, well, it came from Connie because his computer was the only one that was working at the time.
Oh,
Yeah, he did send it out. They all came from Adon.
Right.
yeah, yeah.
I think I said
Okay.
what you told me to say, Bob. The
Yeah, I know.
attendant-
You said exactly what I told you to say. Bring your own agenda item was what the message was, and the date, the time of the meeting, and it was sent to people that already have had emails from us, and it was minimal, and it was all we could get done based on the time we had to get the thing out. It took longer to do what we were doing than we anticipated for whatever reason. So anybody wants to contribute to the what we put in the email, please send me an email.
Well, that's the whole point, was for you to put something together and let us see what you had put together, but.
Again, I'll repeat what I said before, Scott. I sent out those emails. They
Yeah.
are those emails over the last month or so
Right.
that have what I thought ought to be in the email. And if
Okay.
you want to do something different, that's fine, except that's my best
I got
thinking.
it. All right. All righty, well, let's give,
I have a question about the email.
go ahead.
Do we want to put everybody's email address there, or should they be blinded?
You should be
It should
BC.
be BCC. Did it not come?
No.
Yeah, it should be, it
BC.
wasn't BCC. You didn't send it BCC. You said it's CC.
No, I said blind copy. That's
my apologies, y'all.
BCC.
Yeah, I did not send a blind copy. I should have.
Okay, well, we screwed up all the way around, but
Eh, mistakes happen.
we'll get it together, or we
If I can
won't.
make another suggestion,
Sure.
New York, we actually do have, the way we do it is that we actually do have a group that actually makes the email and then sends it to the people for approval, the people who send the email, and then those people send the email. So,
Okay, well, that'd be good.
it'd be probably fine if Steve,
Mhm.
I was
Scott
hoping,
just, I don't know why I keep calling Scott Steve. It's probably fine if Scott, makes the email and then sends it to you send out.
I didn't get that.
I said it'd be perfectly fine if Scott were to write out what the email was going to be, send it to you so you could send out the email, or send it to
Well, that
Aiden.
would be, it would be
Don.
fine with me if somebody else wanted to send the email out.
I'm gonna make that a point to get that to you this week.
Okay.
All right. All right, well, we have Stacy is going to, she's going to give her about 10 minutes or so, however much she needs for the guidelines for this different type of leadership style, I guess you'd say. Sociocracy, is that right? Sociocracy? Sociocracy.
Sociocracy.
No,
Right. But anyway, Stacy, go ahead and we give you the floor, and you tell us what your observations are and how you think this can work.
all right. Well, it's not sociocracy, so not to be confused. Nothing wrong with sociocracy. This just is a different thing. It was set up for, in particular for intentional communities, which is the community that I live in. And it's for consensus-based meetings. However, what I've done is, I'm going to share my screen, but actually before I share it, I just want to say a couple things. I've kind of picked out stuff that I thought was universal, doesn't need to be a consensus-based meeting. It could be a voting-based meeting or whatever. But I thought that these things could be useful for us to help us keep focused on our meeting topics, etc. And I'm just going to present one little aspect, which I think is like what I would call the low-hanging fruit, right? Something that might be easy for us to incorporate into our meetings to help us keep focused. But I wanted to mention one thing before that, which is that I took a workshop a couple weekends ago on community organizing, which much to my surprise was very different than what I expected. And the gist of it was that in order to be able to work together efficiently and smoothly and happily, that the necessary first step is that people get to know each other, and in so doing get to trust each other. And I thought that was a great idea, and it underlined my personal belief that we do need to devote some time to that in our group. And one thing I want people to consider is the idea of having once a month, we meet weekly. So having one meeting a month devoted to either philosophical discussions or some other way getting to know each other. And in part, it will serve as building trust and getting to know what skills people have. And so we can better figure out what roles people are going to have in the organization. Also, if we have that time to get to know each other, then there won't be so much distractions at the business meetings, which are usually for the purpose of getting things accomplished. So it's two reasons to do it. One, because it will help us work better together. And two, because it will help us be able to maintain our focus at the business meetings. So that's something to think about. And I'm just going to share the screen of my, let me see, make sure I share the right one. Yeah, I think this is, yeah. So the group guidelines are something that's read at the beginning of each meeting to help us remember what our agreements were about how we want to behave at the meeting. And the important thing to know is that people need to agree to them. So I'm presenting what we do at our meeting that at the beginning we all agreed to. So these are just for that purpose, for people to kind of get an idea of them and see if any of them are like, yeah, or if any of them are like, yeah, or if any of them feel like, might be useful or whatever. So what I'll do is go over them briefly and then leave some time for Q&A. All right, I'm trying to do this in 10 minutes and I've got about 6 minutes left. So group guidelines, and again, the idea is that they're used in business meetings and also in business emails. These items are objective and members are to hold each other accountable to them. One, use I statements. In other words, talk about yourself and not somebody else. Do not use labels. Labels are like stereotyping. So we want to see people as whole people and not as cardboard characters. One theme at a time. If someone addresses a difficulty with you, oh, there's my 5 minutes. If someone addresses a difficulty with you, don't change the subject and respond with the difficulties that you're having with them. This response should stay on the topic, and interpersonal stuff can be discussed elsewhere. Focus on behavior, not personality. For example, this is self-explanatory. I'm having difficulty with you raising your voice at me right now, as opposed to you're an angry person with a lot of resentment. So in other words, you're like taking somebody's inventory instead of just expressing your own feelings. The next one, don't assign motivation. So in other words, you don't assume you know why somebody brought up a subject. Here's a good one that I love. Don't complain, make a request. This is an act of empowerment. If you're making a request, you're empowered. If you're not, you're being a victim. And we want to think that people can be empowered in this group, my opinion. Okay, it says the following three are less formally recognized, but are requests that people use.
And we lost Stacy.
Their abilities in group. Oh, damn it. Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Yeah,
Can you still see the form?
Yep.
yep.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep my video off. We're almost there. Offer both hands in a discussion. That means if you're presenting an idea, provide the pros and cons of the idea. It helps us keep grounded in reality. Step up and step back. This is also a good one in my opinion. If you're normally silent, try to voice your opinion more. If you're often outspoken, try to make room for others. That's really important so everybody can be heard. And this last one, speak your tens. This is a tool that we use only on occasion when we're short for time. And it means that if the facilitator or somebody asks you just to speak your 10, this means that you only voice your opinion if you cannot move forward without doing so. In other words, if you have a burning thing that you feel is really important, that's a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 in yeah. And then the last little bit is facilitator guidelines. There's a whole bunch more facilitator guidelines that I'll present at another meeting. The facilitator may interrupt people who seem to be repeating themselves or speaking off topic. And if the group is unable to decide how to proceed, the facilitator will make the call. And I've only got a minute left, sorry. I meant to open with the reason I think this is important is that we are all here for the purpose of improving the lives of the people of North Carolina. And if we consider how are we best going to do that, some of these guidelines might help us to reach that goal better than just doing it without as much consciousness. And so that's done. And if we have another minute for questions, that would be great. Or
Yeah, please.
so yeah, if anybody, I think I'll close this unless people want to look at it. And if people have any questions.
I have a quick question. What was the name of the organization that led the grassroots organizing workshop?
Yeah, that is the CORE Black Caucus. And so CORE is a local Chatham County where I live. It's Chatham Organizing for Racial Equity. And there's a white caucus and a black caucus. And one of the leaders of the Black Caucus presented it. It was great. It was great. And I asked her if it's open to the public, and it is. So anybody who might, and she's going to do, or they're going to do more throughout the year in case people are interested. But she kept it really simple, and it was really good. It was really good. Any other questions? That's 10 minutes.
All right.
I do. I have a question.
Yeah, there's two people.
Nissan was
There's two people
first.
with their hands up.
Oh, okay.
We got in the chat here. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you guys are up for taking
Stack
more
in the
time.
chat if you want to, but stack, and then you will be called on for a question.
Always your hand.
Well, then I have to look at two things. Okay. All right. If you do raise your hand, you ask a question, then put it down when you're done. Okay. So Nissan, do you have a question?
Yeah, first, I have a statement. It seems like this was designed to incorporate the fact that we are tribal in nature. So I think the whole idea is to get everybody together and form more of a tribal connection, make it easier to work with. I think that's the idea here. I do think repeating these guidelines every single meeting would waste a bit of time though. But I do see why you could have set up these kind of guidelines. Could have some set of guidelines for meetings. That's nice. I just want to know, like, it seems like it's a little regressive in some conversations. Like, I know, like, you don't want to use certain terms or something like that, but it's kind of hard to get across some information about using certain terms and certain labels.
Mhm.
So I don't know how you get around that.
Mhm.
Like how do you deal with like more controversial kind of topics?
So I think this would definitely apply to controversial topics for sure. And there's more to it than just these guidelines. These are just the reminders of kind of like the attitude and approach that we're, when I say we, me, my group, are looking for, an attitude of, everybody has a piece of the truth. So there should be time for everybody to speak, and just to keep it productive. I don't know if that answers your question, Nissan, but
Okay. And one last thing, is this publicly available? Or can you make this publicly available?
I did post the entire thing up. Yes, I'm going to, Scott and Mark told me how to post it, so I'm going to put it on the Gilded documents.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't mind if other groups look at this? Because I can share this with other groups.
Mm,
I don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's okay.
That's the end of my questions.
And just to answer the other question, Nissan, about reading them, when we read them, we just read the beginning part.
And there you go. I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, sorry.
all right.
Yeah, my internet is screwing up. Sorry.
No problem. Mark, you got your hand up?
Yep. I think use I statements is a little bit pop psychology, but I would maybe amend that to use either first or third person, and try to avoid use of second person, because you need to be able to talk about things that are outside yourself. This is political discussion. Also, is this Chatham racial equality thing? Is this associated with the national group with the same initials, the Congress of Racial Equality, or is it something different from it?
I think it's something different. It's organizing for racial equity.
Okay.
So it might be a national thing. I don't know. But the C is for Chatham
Never-
County.
You've never heard of CORE? It was a big
I've al-
thing in the civil rights movement.
Oh, yeah.
Congress of Racial Equality. It was a national organization, and I think it still exists. Anyway,
Maybe
just wondered if it was, local chapter of that or something just local.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Okay, Bob had a question.
Go ahead, Bob, you're muted.
All right. Yeah, I had a question. I had a couple now, but after Mark mentioned the I statements thing, that's a tool to keep people from saying you. In other words, accusatorial, and so the I statement means speak for yourself, not that there's anything wrong with speaking about the third party. That's really not what it's about.
Right.
Is that the way it is in your organization, Stacy?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's, you're speaking for yourself and not for
Right.
anybody else. Yeah.
Well, sometimes we use code instead of being direct. So the I statements, you almost have to have experience with that to know what in the world it means. I happen to have a lot of experience with it.
Got
And the other thing, did you say something in the very beginning? Seemed like it threw the static from Zoom. I heard you use the word consensus.
Yeah,
Okay.
just that this method was designed specifically for intentional communities that use consensus-based meetings. However, I feel like these guidelines and several other aspects can be used whether or not it's consensus-based, which is
Yeah.
why I brought, yeah. So I'm not suggesting that we are, this has nothing to do with whether we are consensus or not. It's just, I felt like these were useful tools that, or could be
I
useful.
hear consensus used a lot when it means that most people consent, but that's not what consensus means. The consensus means everybody consent. So you have a hard time, you can't use majority rule. You got to use consensus or
Right.
majority rule. You can't have both. Unless
Correct.
everybody happens to agree, but then that means it was democracy where everybody agreed on the outcome. So
Correct.
consensus is a tricky word that's kind of morphed into meaning. Yeah, well, most people want to do that, but consensus means everybody.
Maple stick.
Okay, Maple, real quick, and then we got Brian. Got to leave at 8, so we can let him do his.
Okay, yeah. Hey, everybody. Yeah, I just want to say there's all kinds of consensus. There's a lot, and some of them are, you know, I won't block that, but I don't agree, but it's fine to move on. Like the sociocracy is a type of consent, but yeah, there's all kinds. It's not always everyone has to. I'm just saying is a lot of different ones over. That was good. I've heard almost all the stuff that was on Stacy's thing. I've, you know, heard it in different groups, you know, that I've been in. Nothing's new for me on that. So anyway, fine, over.
Actually, I just want to make that change that statement a little bit. Sociocracy is actually consent based, not consensus. There's a difference.
Well, it sounds like something we need to explore a little further. But
Yeah.
for now, we're going to give Brian the floor. And Brian, what do you got for us, buddy?
Thanks. I mean, Stacy set it up, I think, because she talked about how we're here to improve the lives of people of North Carolina. And yeah, so my question that I'm raising is, why political parties? The framers didn't want political parties. They, you know, went out of their way to not put them in the Constitution. But just as a practical matter, political parties developed because of the way that we elect Congress and the way that, you know, things get done in the legislative branch, where a majority rules. And so as a practical matter, we have a two-party system because there's always the party that's in power, and then there's a party that's trying to get in power. And it oscillates back and forth between those. Over the last 30 years, we've seen things go back and forth between Republicans and Democrats and Republicans and Democrats, and back and forth and back and forth. And that's just kind of the way that the structure works. And so why political parties? Like, what is the point on the business card that you, Scott, is that we want working people's needs to be met, right? And so what does that mean exactly? We know that Democrats and Republicans aren't doing that. We know that they're ignoring the fact that 1 million people in North Carolina are living in poverty and tens of millions nationwide. And they're ignoring all sorts of problems while rushing to throw more money at Ukraine and feed the war machine. They're not looking out for the people the way that they should. So if we know what it is that we want, and we know that it's not getting done, then rather than trying to elect representatives who will carry our demands forward, we can make those demands directly by writing our own legislation and unionizing as voters and saying, look, we acknowledge that Republicans and Democrats are going to win 99% of the time. We've decided not to care which one of you anymore. And instead, we're going to pit you guys against each other. These are our terms. This is what we want done. And offer it to the party, the people in power. Say, look, if you want to stay in power, great, get this done. If you don't, we can replace you with the other guys. We're not going to play that and refuse to play this lesser of two evils game anymore. The
Yeah,
advantage to unionizing as swing voters is that there's no petitioning. You don't have to ask permission to get on the ballot. You don't have to find candidates who are willing to run. You don't have to find candidates who can afford to run and can raise the large amounts of money that it takes to compete with the established duopoly. A union of swing voters just has to be willing to work together and vote together in a way that maximizes their political power. With a political party, you need 35% of the vote to win. In North Carolina, we got a US Senate seat that's up for grabs, and you need 1/10 of that to control that seat. Just 3.5%, not even 3.5%, can say, look, we control which one of you guys is going to get this seat. This is what we want done. And if we can do that, let me go ahead and share my screen. So this is the American Union of Swing Voters, collectively bargaining for a better social contract. And most of you guys have heard my pitch before: end poverty, end mass incarceration, end the endless wars, is what's in our legislative package. But this is the target for 2022, is these 10 states that all have a US Senate seat up for grabs. And by having one set of demands in these states, we can control a half a dozen Senate seats. We can control the outcome, and just as importantly, we can control the conversation about politics in this country and cut through all the BS revolving around Republicans and Democrats, and instead focus on solutions and say, look, American people, we have the ability to end poverty and mass incarceration and the endless wars. You know, somebody said earlier that Congress doesn't get anything done, but they have the ability to. They act all the time very quickly when they want to. We just have to give them the proper incentive. And holding elections, holding control of Congress over their head is a great way to incentivize them. Between these 10 states, we've got about 20 competitive House races, as you know, because of gerrymandering. Like 90% of House races are no longer competitive, but it's the ones that still are, is where swing voters have the power. And so in North Carolina, these are the 4 that are sort of in play, most especially 13 and 9, and then to a lesser extent, 11 and 1. The first district, the 11th district, 11th leans Republican, the first leans Democrat. So depending on how national trends go, you know, only one of those is probably most likely to be influenced with a small group of voters. But why just a small group of voters? These are the solutions that will help working people all over this country. By refusing to play the lesser two evils games and instead focusing on what exactly we want done, we can change the dynamic in this country. To some of the other things that we've talked about earlier about sociocracy and kind of thing, by putting all of these things into one legislative package, one set of demands, people can make primary objections and say, no, I would rather keep mass incarceration, even if I want to end poverty and end the endless wars. People can decide that it's just not a good enough deal for them. But we only need a small percentage to build consensus around these things and say, I have no primary objection, or I'd rather see the status quo. And so there's a specific campaign to get Congress to enact this before the election in October. If they get it done in October, then the challengers can get our endorsement. Great. Wouldn't it be nice to have a peaceful election and just celebrate solving these problems instead of bitterly fighting, declaring the election, you know, is invalid, or we can so offer the endorsement and the support to incumbents if they get it done before the midterms. And if they refuse, give their challengers an opportunity to win the endorsement. And so building a national organization of swing voters willing to do these things. And you can make a $5 monthly donation to the PAC to be counted as a dues paying member. And that's 7 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and I think I'll stop there. the last thing, yeah, I think that's it. I'll stop there and then I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Bob, put your hand down.
Maybe Bob has the first question.
No,
Unless you,
sorry. Nissan had me scoped out.
Okay, Stacy.
Unmute, Stacy.
Sorry. Just to clarify, so this is a union and together the union would decide on what issues they want to demand or what work they want done from the people in office. That sounds like I'm loving the idea, and I'm just thinking that sounds like it might be pretty hard, but I just wanted to make sure that was what the idea was.
Yeah, and so that's sort of the idea. The thing is that we get one opportunity every 2 years with our votes to hold them directly accountable. And so once they're elected, as you know, politicians get elected and they don't always keep their word. So it's much harder to hold them accountable after the fact, which is why writing it down into a specific piece of legislation and saying, look, this is exactly what we want done. If you're willing to be our rubber stamps, then you can stay in power. As far as how is that developed, it's been developed over the last couple of years. And so the 2022 legislative package is pretty solid. But then going forward, once we establish ourselves that we, the people, can negotiate for ourselves, we establish ourselves as a bargaining unit, then it can be a more collaborative effort opened up to everyone for 2024 and come back with another set of legislative demands in 2026. So every 2 years, we, the people, can put together our wish list of addressing injustice in the country and make it happen.
I like the sound of that. Make it happen. What's that? Can you put the address, that address in the chat for us, please?
Yeah.
I definitely like the sound of that.
And I can take questions for a few more minutes, and then we actually have a meeting starting at 8, and I'll post the link for that too if anyone wants to come over afterwards and discuss more.
Right. Mark has his hand up.
I believe I'm fourth.
Are you?
Well, third.
Stacy,
Nissan.
Nissan, right?
Nissan.
Yep.
Stacy was in front of me.
Down when you're done. Yeah.
Oh, Stacy's done? Okay. So Brian, first of all, love the idea. The only problem I see with the idea is that in the beginning, because probably the incumbents would have no problem accepting it because it'd be like a shadow thing. Because even if they do say they would agree to it, they don't have the power to actually pass the thing. So they're like, okay, yeah, we support it nominally, but because they can't actually do anything, so they just say, oh well, we tried, and then they get away with that. So that'll probably take a few years for it to actually show any effect, if we could continue for that long. But by then they'll probably come with a counter strategy. That's the only thing I'm worried about. Also, I did get a chance to go through that legislation package I downloaded. That was a lot, a lot. I feel like some parts weren't going far enough. And I just feel like, we should over ask, because the old saying, if you shoot for the stars, you might hit the moon. So I like to go big, so that way, if there has to be a compromise somewhere, we compromise down what do we actually want. That's all.
Yeah. So to those two things. So the deal with the challengers is that the challengers have to declare their support, and they're actually being willing to take up these demands before they find out whether or not Congress is actually going to act. And so if they say, yes, we demand the incumbent do this, and then the incumbent does, the challenger is expected to step aside. And if they're not willing to make that commitment to step aside in 2022, if their demands are met, then they're not eligible for the endorsement. So there's some gamification here of trying to, again, pitting incumbents versus challenger and not letting them pit us against each other as Americans. To the second part about your reading the legislative package, there's like 50 policies in there. So congratulations. I know it's not light reading, Well, that's why we sum them up as end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars. But you can read it on the website. As far as it not going far enough, because this is supposed to be a good faith offer to say, look, what is the minimum where we would be happy to reelect everyone? What are the things that can bring everyone together? And so it only has a public option for health insurance, right? And I bet you most people in here, myself included, would prefer to see some sort of single payer, some sort of universal health care. But the reality is that it's not a realistic ask for 2022. Joe Biden has already promised to support a public option. So great, let's put it on his desk and make him sign it.
Hey, I just wanted to see if we can make some wiggle room so we can have more negotiation, because they're just going to try to negotiate wherever you start. So you put the starting line pretty high, you could have some negotiations to show you have more good faith.
And there's absolutely some truth to that. But at the moment, since we're starting small, we don't have as much leverage to negotiate yet. In 2024, I think that would probably be a lot better option.
Yep.
All right.
Hey, who else we have
Now
here?
I think it's my turn.
Your turn. All right,
Gotta
buddy.
go, by the way.
Good to see you.
Oh,
Nissan.
sorry. See you, Nissan. Take care, buddy.
Thanks
Bye-bye,
again, man.
Nissan.
No
Yeah.
problem.
What's being discussed here, and we've heard this before, actually, Brian has presented this in past meetings as well, although maybe not everyone here was there. for
It was a
those.
small informal
But,
discussion that night, Mark.
Yeah, right. Anyway, we've heard the ideas, but what this is a pressure group. That's what a PAC is. That's what our 501c4 would be. It can endorse candidates of whatever parties. It can have a platform of legislation. It's very common for pressure groups to actually write legislation and lobby for it. Actually, PACs and lobbyists write probably a majority of legislation. The legislators maybe edit it slightly, but a lot of it comes from lobbyists and pressure groups. So this is another one. But this doesn't solve the problem of these basic progressive demands being fundamentally antithetical to the whole dynamic of the duopoly. Basically, you probably aren't going to get a single challenger or incumbent to say, yes, I'm going to do this. And then what do? Don't vote for anybody? Well,
No,
actually,
the power of a union is being willing to go on strike. And so a small percentage is still the deciders. The question is, how do they want to use that? And so you can do it. The members will decide what's the most disruptive way to send our message, so that in 2024, it's very clear to the incumbents that, look, the small percentage of us are the deciders. This is what we expect you to get done. Take it or leave it.
well,
And-
basically your options as voters are either stay home or vote out incumbents, and these are strategies that we hear every year, and some people follow them, but with 3.5% of the vote, if you had that, you don't. You've got something like a quarter to a third of the electorate not voting anyway. So how do they know whether you voted or not? And if you vote for incumbents or vote against incumbents, same thing. How is your impact even identifiable?
Those are great questions. The short answer is because you called it ahead of time before the election. And but I'd be happy to talk more with you another time, Mark, about the strategy of how exactly a small percentage can be most effective.
Maple stack question.
Okay.
Adon had his hand up. I'd love to hear his thought.
Yeah, I was just trying to get some follow-up of some of the comments that you made, Brian. Well, two things. So the first thing, I tried to click on that link, amamericanunion.com, and it didn't work for me.
Did I mistype it? Yeah, my bad.
No, it's okay. I just really want to get on that call as
Good
well.
job,
I'm
good
really
job,
interested
guys.
in learning more about that. And then like the second question I had was why, and you kind of touched on it a little bit already, but why do you think it's important not to have a party?
Why do I prefer not to have a party?
Yeah, why do you think it's important to not have a party at all? Like, so I'm completely for and 100% behind, the People's Party. But I was just curious. I never heard your perception before, and I'm just want to learn more.
Um, I'm not saying that not to have a party, but I guess what I'm saying is parties are sort of a 18th, 19th, and 20th century invention, where the only way democracy got done was you elected someone to go sit in a small room in Washington and hash these things out. And in the 21st century, we don't have that limitation, right? We're talking all across the state and across the country, right? With no restrictions. So we, the people, can represent ourselves in a better way, that we don't need to elect people to do it for us. And we can do it in a much broader, more diverse, more representative way. 435 members is not enough to represent 330 million people. So a People's Congress can represent us better and come up with one set of demands every 2 years and back it up with votes.
So it sounds like it could be a both and thing with this People's Party.
I'm sorry?
Sounds like it could be a both and, like it could be diudal with the People's Party and this union. Thank you, Brian.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, folks. Well, any more questions here? Okay.
Maple had her hand up, and then I got
Yeah,
her.
there you are. Maple, let's hear from
Hey.
you.
Yeah, I've heard Brian's thing too before. It's really cool, and I hate parties because of what they've become, right? But anyways, cut to the chase, Brian. So you're presenting to us, say, is your hope, like we all would love to get some thousands of members in the next couple of years, and are you hoping, honestly, maybe to get a piece of this organization to like go with the union idea and have like an option, like people can sign on to it or something? Because I mean, that could happen. I'm just saying. Then you'd get some numbers, because I know you haven't. You need more numbers. Over.
Thank you, Mabel. Yes, that's a great question. Yes, I am hoping that people from the People's Party will sign on, because again, as we've talked about with the People's Party, we're looking at 2026 for ballot access. And maybe America doesn't have that much time. So this is a ready to go package for 2022
Right.
to cut through the gridlock and say, look, solve some problems already, Congress. Because if we don't, if things continue to just fester, like there's a non-zero chance that Donald Trump runs again and gets reelected. And that would be horrible in a number of different ways. And so let's take the stress off the country by solving these problems. And then when we're less stressed, we can make better decisions and elect somebody completely different for president in the very near future.
All right, Mark, you got something to say?
Yeah, have you, we were talking about a month ago or a few weeks ago about this candidate who was about to run for Senate, but decided to run for Congress in the first district instead. Have you approached her?
No, not directly. It's on my list of things to do, but no, I have not.
Erica Smith.
Yes.
Erica Smith, right?
Yes.
And I don't know about supporting this, this 50-item bill, but she is for UBI at least. So that would be a potential endorsement. I can't think of anybody else in North Carolina that would even be approachable with something like that. But anyway, just wondered if there'd been any updates on her.
No.
Oh well, okay.
Okay.
She is still running. She
I
does
have a
face a
comment
primary.
on Erica Smith. She has been asking for help in her campaign. She's asking for money, of course, but she also has pointed out the awful consequences of having this guy, Sandy. I think that was his name may be Smith too, but he's a Trump devotee, and he had Donald Trump supposedly was coming last weekend to her hometown. I don't remember what that is, but it's out there on the northeast end, bordered by the southern border of Virginia and the inner banks, they call it. That's where you got the bogs and whatnot. But it's a big, if you look at it on the map, it's a huge land area. That population, I think, is less than 1 million, like 940,000, something like that. But she has asked for help to keep, if you don't, I'd rather, if we go back to this lesser two evils thing, I don't like that terminology. But we've got people that are good people who want to do the right thing. And not many of them last very long in Congress. If they get to Congress and do the right thing, they get primaried out, or some way they have no committee assignments and so forth. So I don't know how long a person can stand that. They certainly don't want to run for re-election. So the other option is to be co-opted and to do the corporate bosses, that's the shadow government, do their bidding through their on-site lackeys in Congress. So I'm in favor of seeing us support candidates, regardless of party, that are amenable to bucking the system, to making good trouble up there. And then by the time they get through with their first 2 years, we would be able to give them a ballot line of the People's Party, NC. So that's my, I realize I have forsaken the Democrats, and I have no interest in having anything to do with them in any way, shape, or form. But I'm talking about a candidate that's running on the Democratic ticket, because that's the only way that a progressive can get to Congress now. I don't know how long ago it was that the Republicans lost their 100% of their souls, but it's been coming on for a long time. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I think this is an issue that something that we should talk about there's some sentiment in both directions in this group about whether we should even consider supporting Democrats. And I'm one that thinks it makes good sense to support a good candidate and offer them the pledge that we will support them on our ballot line if they're able to make it through the 2 years in Congress without getting bought and paid for by the government, by the Congress. So that's what I wanted to mention, that, and it seemed like a good time to do it.
Again, that's what we have the 501c4 for. That's what that's for. And that's why it's a separate organization. I think it's a bad idea to promise anybody a nomination in advance. I don't think a party ought to do that. I think people ought to be nominated at the party's convention in the election year, but endorsing candidates of whatever party based on our perception of them, that's what the 501c4 is for.
Okay.
That's why we're starting two different organizations. That's what that's all about.
Mm-hmm, for sure. All right. Does, Mark, have you been checking the UPA meetings out? Do you have any kind of updates for us? Is there anything going on there that's of interest to us?
The week before last, wasn't able to get in. I was sent a bad link. Last week, not a whole lot happened. One thing I'm noticing with UPA is that there's a drastic reduction of activity on their gilded. Not very much going on at all. Before there was a great deal. There seems to be a great deal less. Most of it's about national political issues and not so much about what they are doing. So basically, what UPA is shaping up as is a discussion group, which is starting to look like it could be a pressure group, with possibly a service component to state and local political parties. We don't have local or county political parties in this state, and they only have them in a few states. But in any case, one other thing that's going on on the services to parties front is that Mike McCorkle is still talking about and making progress on, far as I know, what he's calling the Rocky Mountain Political Law Institute, or RUMPLI, which is going to offer pro bono legal advice to people doing the sort of thing that we are engaged in. So he's not actually a part of UPA, but I know about him through both MPP and UPA. That is still an ongoing effort. So next meeting is tomorrow night. I'll have more for you next week. One thing I wanted to talk about before we go, I was reading over the current draft of the 527 bylaws and cleaned up a few little things. There were some references to a national party that were holdovers from the libertarian bylaws that we were editing. So I deleted those. Doesn't really affect the content of anything. It's just an oversight on our part. So I just wanted to let you know I did that.
Excellent. Yeah, we're getting some good work done here on the bylaws.
I know what it was. I noticed that that they had this holdover from the libertarian bylaws that the treasurer is appointed by the chair. I was thinking I recalled we didn't want to have that. I wanted to take that up here because I wanted to know if anybody has any definite opinions on whether the treasurer should be appointed by the chair or should be elected along with the rest of the executive committee. If the rest of you don't have any firm opinions on it, that's fine, but I thought I'd throw it out there to get your input before we do anything one way or the other on that. Anybody have any thoughts?
I have a question. What is your opinion?
That's my question too. You've done it before.
I think it would be more appropriate to have them elected, but the executive committee as a whole would have the power to appoint officers to the executive committee to fill vacancies between conventions, and that then any members so appointed would be non-voting. The idea there being to keep the executive committee from pressuring people out and packing the committee with their cronies. Right?
Right, you don't want that.
Uh,
Sounds familiar.
Yep.
So-
Anyway, that's in there, that the executive committee can appoint people who will then be non-voting members to fill vacancies that need to be filled. And if the treasurer vacates for whatever reason, the assistant treasurer automatically steps in. But then you have to appoint another assistant treasurer in case something happens to that treasurer, right? So that's
Mhm.
why the executive committee would have that power in between conventions. You make sure you don't have an unfilled position there.
So those appointed positions would then be voted on at the next convention. Is that correct?
Yeah, their terms would, the terms of the executive committee expire. Right now we've got a setup for biannual conventions in even numbered years. Everybody's term is 2 years, although there are no term limits written in. So if all the appointed ones that were appointed to fill vacancies, their terms expire along with everybody else's. So they're up for re-election or not, depending on whether they want to run and get elected at the next convention. So they only serve until then. And then if elected, now they're voting ones. Now they have a vote.
Very good.
Before we close, Stacy asked a question about Shikori. I think it needs to be answered.
Yeah, well, we were just fixing to get to that, my man.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, Stacy Maple, what's the story with Shikori Hills and the payment? I'll be glad to put 10 in myself. I'm sure everybody else will be willing to help out. So
Yeah, sure.
if you want to get paid in a certain way, I know like Aaron, we have the passing the hat thing in Gilded, and you can go in Gilded and put your PayPal or Venmo or Zelle or whatever it is you use address, and then we can send that to you if you want to do it that way. Or Maple, what say ye about all of this?
I don't care, as long as I only have to put in maybe $10 or something of my own, you know.
Okay. All
So
right.
I guess,
We'll make sure of that.
Who's the money going to? You, Stacy?
yeah, I don't know, did you pay for it, Maple?
No, I think there's a process. I have to tell them what kind of tickets we wanted, 2 or 8, so it looks like 8. And, you know, Bob can just be there when he wants to be there and with our tent.
But we'll need to, I think, pay by, this is dim memory, but I
The
think we
next,
pay
step- yeah, the
online.
next step, the guy's waiting for me after this meeting. I told him we'd let him know if it was just the 2 tickets, like for me and you, that I thought at first, because we live closer, or we'll do the 8. And then you and I might use up the 8 mostly ourselves, but we'd like volunteers between now and May if they want to come, you know, and then Bob can be one of the, so we'll kind of figure that all out.
Yeah, how do we best get you the money? How do we manage to get you the money?
Yeah,
I'm
well,
not worried about it, as long as we get something somehow.
Stacy's gonna give us a link of some sort, I imagine, that we can send her some money with, and I advise that we do that as quickly as possible so that they can get the reservations done or whatever.
Is
Yeah,
that
I think I
something Cash App would work on?
I don't think I would trust that. I don't know. It's getting too complicated. Next step is I'm the contact person, so I think I'm gonna he's gonna ask me for the money, I guess, because I'm the person that contacted him right away to get it done and stuff. But then like
Why don't we
Stacy,
send you a check? Just give us your address and we'll mail you a check. How
I
tough
like
is
that.
that?
Yeah, as long as
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
have.
that's kind of old fashioned. I mean, I hate not to use some kind of electronic thing.
Yeah, I don't trust that shit anyway. All right, I guess we're fine. But we'll figure out, and it would be cool to have Bob, Bob imitates Mark Twain, and he does a whole acting thing, so he could like talk about the People's Party and look like Mark Twain. We're pretty excited, so, but it's
Did
at
you-
the, it's at
Maple,
a
did
place
you,
in the country.
Yeah, I've got that pretty much together. It depends on how long. It's not as long as I want it to be because we've got this thing going in Black Mountain. that the guy's gonna charge
Yeah.
$12 or $15 to get into, and I think I ought to do more than 15 minutes.
Snippets, just snippets, because people are there for music and they'll see you, oh, Mark Twain, oh, yeah, 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 and it's just a one, a couple minutes or something, that's it.
Oh, yeah, I got a bunch of little snippets that'll
Yeah,
knock
yeah.
them down.
So
That'd be fun.
Maple, did you ask Ira if that was okay for us to have Mark Twain there?
No. We're just gonna do it. I mean, it's fine.
Well, we just show up in the white suit and I just start making comments to people that come by.
Yeah.
Okay,
The citizen who sees his democratic clothes being worn out and does not cry out is not a patriot, but a traitor.
Uh,
And it's a
That's
bit.
direct quote.
Yep. Well, they certainly won't think you're Colonel Sanders if you said that to them.
Oh, what? I've got a bit about that Colonel Sanders thing too. Colonel Sanders had a goatee and wore a black tie. I have no goatee and I wear no tie.
Okay, so it's easy to know.
It's easy to
don't-
know. I don't
don't you have
smell
a-
like chicken either.
don't you have a straw hat? Isn't that a Mark Twain thing?
Yeah, I can't find the hat. I found something close, but I can't find the hat that like he wore. It's kind of like a Kentucky gentleman drinking mint juleps kind of hat. So, but he hardly ever wore a hat. At least not in the pictures. We don't know what he did. There's only one snippet of a movie about him, and there's no recording of his voice. Zero, none.
Well, you get to be creative then.
Yeah, I try to stick close. I used to be very, very rigid about not saying anything that he didn't say if I could find out it was a misattribution. But some of those misattributions, I think he wouldn't have minded saying. So I just say something like, well, I don't remember saying this, but I like it. And then I go on and say it.
There you go. Very cool.
Folks, I think we had a good meeting tonight. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Are there, Don, thank you for coming, sir, and we look forward to working with you in the future, my man.
Yeah, Don's gonna run me ragged. I'll tell you, he's a mover.
Good deal.
Love.
Need that energy for sure.
I don't know
He's
if y'all
another-
saw it.
He's another triad area guy, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm on Glenwood Avenue in Greensboro.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
in Chapel Hill. You guys
Oh,
are
you're in
all
Chapel Hill.
Hey, keep an eye on Bob now. Keep him.
outliers.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got him to keep me straight before I get in trouble.
But yeah. All right. Well, any other further comments, questions, or anything?
Bylaws
Thanks,
meeting
everybody.
tomorrow at 11,
Thank
right?
you, guys.
Yes, tomorrow morning is the bylaws meeting, 11 a.m. All are welcome. If you want to go to it, the meeting link is in the calendar. Just click on it. And once again, everybody remember next week, we're going to Google Meet for the state meeting tonight. And that link is also right in the calendar there. Just click on the day, the meeting, and then there's the Google Meet link and you're ready to rock and roll. So
Great job, Scott. Thanks for all your work too. And
Thanks,
Mark.
Scott.
and
Appreciate
Bob.
it.
Yeah, I'll probably
Yeah.
see you tomorrow.
get you guys later. Solid day.
Bye.
Night.
I'm going to the UPA tomorrow night.
Okay.
Deal,
Thank you
man.
for that.
Good. Keep an eye on them for us. See y'all.